Okay. I'll keep one eye on the waiting room and another um, with you all. Welcome. Good evening. My name is Elizabeth Spike, and I am the Education Program Manager for Clean Air Partners. And I am delighted that you have joined us this evening. We have an inspiring group of presenters to share teacher resources, strategies, and best practices for your climate teaching. And we do have a tight schedule, so let's go to the agenda and let's see. Jared and Jabari are going to kick off the welcome and introduction to the webinar. And that will be followed by Vicki Matthews. She's our spokesperson for this year's Climate Teach-In from Baltimore Polytechnic High School. Ann Strozik will present resources from Climate Institute. Brett Matulis will share Eco America resources and best practices for communicating climate change. Emily Stransky will represent Chesapeake Bay Trust and share resources. And then we'll wrap that up with Q&As. You are welcome to put questions in the chat, but if you could hold off your questions towards the end, then we'll answer them all in one go. And then we'll close for the evening. Great. Jabari, Jared, would you like to just tell me when to advance the slides?
Yep, Jabari, I think you're up next. And Elizabeth,
Yes.
feel free to go to the next slide.
Yes, thanks so much, Elizabeth. Well, thank you all for joining us today. My name is Jabari Walker. I am the Sustainability and Energy Coordinator at Bowie State University, and I'm a co-chair on the ECO Work Group of the Maryland Commission on Climate Change, which is the work group responsible for initiating the Climate Teach-In. My fellow co-chair, Amy Lambert, who was a huge part of putting all this together, regretfully is unable to join us this evening, but I can assure you that both of us, as well as our fellow members on ECO, are ecstatic to see all of you for the first webinar of its kind. So our colleague Jared and myself will take care of the introduction section, and I will turn over to Jared at this time.
Thanks, Jabari, and thanks everyone for being here. My name is Jared Williams. I'm on the climate change team at the Maryland Department of the Environment, and I have the pleasure of serving as administrative support for the Maryland Commission on Climate Change. And the Maryland Commission on Climate Change is the organization that organizes and hosts the Maryland Climate Teach-In, which we're really excited about. So a little bit of background on what exactly the commission is. So the Maryland Commission on Climate Change is an independent statutory body that was originally established by executive order in 2007 and was codified by the General Assembly in 2015. And the commission is charged with advising the governor and General Assembly on ways to mitigate the causes of, prepare for, and adapt to the consequences of climate change. And the primary way that the commission does this is through recommendations into an annual report, which is given to the governor and the General Assembly with recommendations on how they can, as I said, mitigate, adapt, and prepare for the consequences of climate change. Next slide, please. One back, sorry. Yep, nope. I think we kept going. There we go. Education, Communication, Outreach Working Group. Thank you. As Jabari said, the ECO Working Group is one of the working groups under the Maryland Commission on Climate Change, of which Jabari and Amy are wonderful co-chairs. And the ECO Working Group is responsible for just that. They are the education and outreach wing of the commission, and they do a lot of our PR work and also climate education work, including organizing the Teach-In, which is, I think, all of our favorite part of the year. So with that, I'll hand it back to Jabari to introduce the Teach-In itself.
All right, thank you, Jared. So really quick history on the Maryland Climate Teach-In. This idea actually came from the Worldwide Teach-In at the time, which was a week long of events, and it was a global initiative. And one of the co-founders of that initiative presented to our work group. And so Amy and myself and a few ECO members took the challenge on and made it a statewide initiative. So that's pretty much how it came to be. And now happened about 3 years ago. Now we are in our fourth year. I hope that's correct, Jared, if I'm saying that right, our fourth year. So
that's right.
Okay, appreciate it. So what is the Maryland Climate Teach-In exactly? It is basically an initiative that encourages educators of all types, whether classroom teachers, outdoor educators, youth leaders, nonprofits, community groups, etc., to find innovative approaches to engage around climate change discussions. These can be 15-minute discussions to interactive modules, and even public events. The goal is to encourage Marylanders of all ages to explore climate solutions. So again, who participates? We say all kinds of educators. Educators does not necessarily mean you have to be in the business or profession of educating. But again, if you're in a leadership position, we've had many nature centers, nonprofits, organizations, community government agencies to sign up for the teach-in. So really can be anybody who has knowledge on on any of the topics involving the climate or environment. So what counts as a teach-in event? More than likely, you're already doing the work. Many of you are already doing some of the things that can count as a teach-in event. So exploring local weather, ecosystems, reading and writing about community impacts and solutions. Whether you have courses or activities that uses data, art, history, even civic engagement, those are things that can count as a teach-in event. Student-led action projects outdoors or in the community, many field trips during the month of April that will qualify as a teach-in event. So whether it's big or small, it all counts, it all matters. And of course, when is a teach-in event? So we decided for the month of April, we consider April Earth Month. Initially, this actually started off as a week. And for the first 2 years, it was a week. Last year, we expanded it to the entire month of April for different reasons, such as spring breaks being different school districts and so forth. And of course, we wanted to make sure we capture some of the events that take place during the month of April. So next slide. So we have a few case studies. I'm not going to get into a whole lot about that, but Hebfield Elementary, they actually implemented a series of climate and environmental education activities that span multiple school years. They started the Green Club. They designed, planted, and installed a native pollinator garden in the school courtyard. They established a no-mow zone, as in lawnmower, at the outskirts of the school where they planted additional native plants. They installed bluebird habitats, created art projects using recycled milk and juice containers. They had stormwater awareness where students painted storm drains around the school with the message Chesapeake Drainage using stencils and paint. And they also hosted guest speakers and environmental educators who led discussions and workshops on native versus invasive species and the importance of sustainable landscaping and how climate change is impacting Maryland's ecosystems. Next slide. And that's on the elementary level. So moving on to the middle school level, we have Mountain View Middle School. They took a field trip to Howard County Conservancy to learn about climate change, and then they engaged in one self-directed.
No, thank you. May I have a large sweet tea with 2 lemons?
Can you make sure everybody puts themselves on mute, please? Thank you. They took a field trip anyway. So they had 900 students to engage in about a half-hour lesson on how to improve the Chesapeake Bay watershed through daily actions. Students participated in a variety of actions from attending a live native snake presentation. Y'all can see the snake in that picture right there. Taking home dill plants grown by students and adding native plants to the school garden. They also had a group of students who worked with the Smithsonian to complete a scientific study of native orchids. All right, next slide. So, okay, I don't really have any information on Baltimore Polytechnic Institute. However, we have a person here who's coming up next who can explain more about what they did there. So I'll let that part go to her. I think we have one more slide and then I'm done. Okay, so how's the teaching work? It's pretty simple. Just register. Just register the event. You can use the QR code right here if you're able to right now. We do have a web link as well, and I think that'll be coming up in just a second if you're not able to use the QR code. But it's literally, it takes you probably 3 to 5 minutes, if that. It's a very simple registration form. We ask that you do it as soon as possible, but no later than April 30th, because that is the end of the month. The next thing, just carry out the climate education activity or discussion that you plan during the month of April. We will send you a post-event survey after your event is registered to share more about your activity. And then you'll receive a certificate of participation, and you'll qualify for some exciting prizes. So that's pretty much it in a nutshell. And if you have any further questions about how to register or anything like that, you can get in touch with myself, Jabari Walker, or Amy Lambert, Jared Williams as well. And one last thing I wanted to mention, we're always trying to enhance the climate teaching. One of the enhancements that we came up with a few years ago was to have a spokesperson for the climate teaching event. We started this is our 3rd year with the spokesperson. So I think that's going to be a good segue to the next presenter, which is this year's spokesperson for the climate teach-in event. And I would turn it, I'm sorry, that's the slide for our information. And I'll turn it over now to Ms. Matthew.
Hi, everyone. It's such an honor to be here and to have been chosen to be the spokesperson for this year's climate teach-in. Elizabeth, could you actually go back? Because I wasn't sure if Jabari was going to talk about those slides. Could you go back to the slides about Polly? Okay. All right. So it's just a little background on me. I am a teacher at Baltimore Polytechnic Institute, which is like the STEM Magna School of Baltimore City. I have been there for 8 years, although I've been teaching in Baltimore City public schools for 18 years. So we have a very strong greening program. We are a Maryland Green School. We've been recertified twice. And this all happened before I even came there. So like the students are very self-driven, they're self-motivated, and they start all their clubs and run them. And then I support them. So when they talked about this as a case study, you can see the picture on the bottom is like a large group of students. That was Earth Day last year. We always do an annual campus cleanup and community event. So that's just something that you can see. And then we had our aquaponics club. They did a stream cleanup in the Jones Falls. And then you can see in the middle, there's a guy who is about to climb a tree. That was a Poly alumni that I was able to invite. He's from Bartlett Tree Group, and he is a tree foreman. So he came and talked to our students about his career path, how Poly impacted him as a student and in college, and how his love for the outdoors like earned him a position at Bartlett Tree Group, where he became a tree foreman. And so So he came and he was probably the greatest guest speaker I've ever had in my life. I've had a lot of guest speakers, but he was, he graduated in the class of 2017, and he just talked all about the trees and his job and related it back to STEM. And then he also was able to just like talk about his journey. And so the students really loved him. And then we did, as a follow-up for last year's climate teach-in, we did like we looked at trees and we measured their diameter and their height, and we looked at their ecological asset to the community and like what kind of benefits do they have. And so the students were pretty excited about that. And so I wanted to share this slide with you because this is what we did a year ago for our Maryland climate teach-in. And every single year we expand upon that and just kind of take things to the next level. So Elizabeth, you can jump ahead. So I was trying to think about what's the best use of my time here. And as a teacher, it's really to just give my resources, what I use in the classroom. So I decided to kind of go through what I've done in the past year with incorporating the environment in my lessons. So if you can go to the next slide. So this is a picture from 2009. This was the first time I took students on a field trip to go birding and fishing. And this trip totally changed the whole trajectory of my teaching career. The students, they loved it. It was a 5-day experience where, like, on day one, I met up with the Audubon watershed. And then from then on, like the next day, they met my students and we taught them how to bird. And fish just from within the classroom. And then the next day we took them to North Point State Park, and the students just had the greatest day of the year. We went birding and fishing, and I'd never seen students quiet, like literally silent as they were fishing because they were so excited. So from that moment on, I've now made sure that I try to take my students outdoors as much as possible and try to kind of provide them with opportunities to be excited. So you can go to the next slide. So one thing I encourage you all to do, if you're trying to decide on what to do with your lessons, definitely, if you can, take them outside. And it's okay if you don't have something that is like, you could take them and have them play tag if you want to. I'm a biology teacher, so I had my students play the Darwin games, and we did a whole bunch of, just like you can see, they did the wheelbarrow race, just as a way to get them outdoors to enjoy it so they can feel like they are excited about being outside in the sun. The next picture in the middle, that's just them walking in a park, just observing and just enjoying it, being out in the sun. The picture on the right is they're looking at a transect line and they're making observations about what's taking place in that quadrant. The students are looking at biodiversity. There's a lot of different things you can do. So I encourage you all, above all things, take your students outside if you can in the month of April. Next slide, please. Forest bathing. I'm a big fan of just taking your students outside to just be in the woods and maybe not even do anything. Just sit in silence if you can and let them listen to the birds and listen to the sounds and feel the elements on their skin. But as you can see here, on the picture on the right, I have my students actually nature journaling. I am a mentor for the Chesapeake Bay Foundation, and they have these 14 nature journal prompts that I use, and I let the students pick from them. And then when we go outside, I give them, about 30 minutes to just nature journal. And we do that in the woods. So they get a little mixture of forest bathing and nature journaling. Another activity you could do is walking around your schoolyard, doing a schoolyard report card. The Chesapeake Bay Foundation has a really excellent one that will provide as a resource. So I also think that's a great opportunity for you to just take your kids outside so you can survey the schoolyard and kind of decide. And that ends up being a springboard for more conversations as to if the students want to have an action project or if they want to talk about the state of the schoolyard. Next slide, please. Using local data. If you have an opportunity, we're spoiled at Poly. We have 2 weather stations that we received from Hopkins, and we're part of this larger network. But if just even you looking at weather data, like if you're a math teacher and being able to have your students look at the data and tell a story, says a lot for climate change. This is something that I plan on delving into more with my students with our weather station. Next, please. I do take my students water quality testing. We go in the Jones Falls and we look at macroinvertebrates. This is something that I know we're really spoiled with because we have the Jones Falls in our backyard. But if you don't, you could also just go to Blue Water Baltimore and you can go to their website and you can access water quality data. And once again, data tells a story that can inform your students about a lot of things. But as you can see, look at their joy. They had a blast. My students they loved going outside. They loved picking up critters and being able to say, oh, this means this water quality is good. Next slide. Trail cams. Trail cams is another thing that we have. So the students can see what animals are in our backyard. We wrote a grant and we were able to put this in our backyard. Next slide. I worked with Sean Gordon from Cool Green Schools. He came in and taught my students how to build air filters. So this is also just something that there's a link that I will share with you guys, which teaches you how to do this. And this is just something, once again, just hands-on that can drive discussions about air quality, what's happening with climate change. Next slide. And seed bombs is another thing that I've done with my students. All you need is just tissue and water and some seeds. And this really drove a lot of discussion came from this. So this is something that anyone can do. And it's pretty cool to see the students can take these home, but then also the discussions that come from it are pretty wonderful. Next slide. Grow something. I just always think for this Married Climate teaching, if you're at a loss for what you should do, well, get some radish seeds and some soil and grow something with your students. We have an aquaponics space at Poly, and our students love being able to have the chance to grow something there. Next slide. And junk journaling. This is another activity we did with my students where I worked with the library media specialist, and she wanted to do mixed media with students at Poly. So I signed up, and my students and we were junk journaling the whole year, and we ended up growing mushrooms. And so that's why you see the mushrooms in the middle. But the students love this activity, and you could do this in any class that you teach where you take paper bags and you just make journals. So this was just another idea. And this is the last one I'm going to talk about. An invasive species cleanup. My students use the Seek app, or you can use iNaturalist, and you can go outside and take pictures of leaves, and they'll tell you, if they're invasive or not. And so my students ended up doing an invasive species cleanup. And there's a lot of discussion you can have with that with regards to climate change about like what grows, what doesn't, and what can we do to mitigate this. So this was very enjoyable for my students as well, besides doing the trash cleanups as well. So these were just a few ideas that I have. The next few slides are slides that we provided with the Maryland Climate Teach-In that you could possibly use if you're looking for just like an opener for your classroom. Like this one is just showing a graph, and you can have the students just really look at it and analyze it for a moment. So hopefully these gave you some ideas on things you can do in your classroom from a teacher's point of view. And then that's all I have to say. So with that being said, the next person is an organization that my school uses. We have a lot of student leaders at my school, and they always are looking for ways to, I don't know, enhance what they already do. So I have 15 students that are part of Youth Climate Institute. So I now pass the torch to Anne.
Well, that was a perfect segue. Thank you. So yes, I'm Ann Strozik. I'm the Youth Climate Institute Outreach Director, and I'm so happy to be here with you tonight. YCI, as we call it, is a national organization that certifies high school students as climate ambassadors. So happy to be here with you tonight. Before we get started, I just want a quick pulse, if you will, a quick vibe check. If you are an elementary educator, could you send me a heart? Let me see who you are. All elementary educators. Who are you? All right, Amber. Okay, Monet, nice. Oh, exploding hearts. Okay, Miriam. All right, how about our middle school educators? Let's see the hearts. Thanks, Erin. I got 2 hearts there. All right, middle school educators. And last, high school educators. If you're here, show us some educational love. Alex, thank you. Renato, awesome. I know Emily's here. Marilyn, great. And how about if you're an educator in the community, whether informal educator or through church? Kimberly, nice. Okay. And Gail, wonderful. Well, we're so glad that you all are here because we all have a seat at this table tonight. All right, next slide, please. What I'm going to do is slightly different from Vicki. I'm going to go through and talk about different little ideas you could do at each level through school. But before I do it, I want to echo what Jabari said. Hit the easy button, especially if this is your first year. If you're a little nervous, take a simple step, a small step. And like Vicki, next year, maybe you could take another step, okay? So we're gonna hit the easy button. But before we hit the easy button, when I hit one more slide, I wanna talk about salsa. Okay, so when I look at action, climate action, I think of food, of course, and I think of easy projects, mild, medium, a little bit more, hot, whoo, a lot of, a big project, and then extra or fuego is like what Vicki's doing this year, like going bigger and bigger each year. So we're going to hit mostly mild with a smattering of fuego. So hopefully you'll leave with one little taco or tortilla to think about. Okay, next slide. All right, we are going to just talk about elementary school. Elementary school is an awesome time to build our stores, our earth stores. As a matter of fact, as a high school educator, when I ask students, who inspired you? It's every single time their teacher in elementary school, every single time. So reading books about nature, as Vicki mentioned, checking out the weather, looking at the cloud charts. They love to play games, sorting trash, where you can introduce composting. And just as Vicki said, getting them outside to make observations. Next slide. Another easy way, and I would call this like a mild, mild salsa, is to do a prompt. One way I can help the earth. And my thing in nature is an open-ended, and that leads to such beautiful discussions and art as well. Next slide, please. Over to middle school. So we began thinking about a little bit more about systems, a little bit more about ownership and personal responsibility, having students vote true or false on climate statements, looking at a local impact. I'm calling in tonight from Ellicott City, and for us, as you might know, flooding is a major issue. Looking at carbon footprint. Middle schoolers love to debate, and then designing a solution to a problem that exists at school or the community. Next slide, please. Again, love the prompts for art and for writing and poetry. One climate issue that affects my community is, and then one change I could make is. These are great, serious discussions. Next slide. On to high school. So here we get a little deeper, looking at civic engagement, a lot of opportunities for leadership. Looking at policies, specifically the Maryland Bottle Bill, which is trying to get passed again. That would be a great topic to debate, to research, to understand. Once you say cash for trash, they're going to be really into it, let me tell you. As Vicki mentioned, looking at data sets, local data sets, there's so much out there. And then, of course, action planning. You know, they love to, high school students really enjoy synthesizing solutions for their school. And a lot of it is about food waste, quite honestly, at the high school level. Next slide, please. Digging in with the prompts at the high school level. How can youth influence climate policy? Well, we know, we have seen the impact that youth have had, especially with the styrofoam ban. It's awesome. And then what role do I want to play in climate solutions? So these are fabulous questions to work with your high school students and your senior citizens as well. I know, I think it was Gail that mentioned she was looking for something. These would be great fodder for discussion. And then the next slide is, you know, things that you could do at any level, anywhere. And one thing that is not on here is fast fashion. And I bet Vicki will agree. Man, fast fashion, thrifting, one-stop thrift shop, it's a great way to talk about climate change and the use of water. So Gail, I don't know if you can get your seniors to do a thrift store or take them thrifting. That would be super cool. But these are all little ways to kind of spice up, if you will, your climate action this month. Thank you so much. Oh, and I forgot. I get to introduce Brett. Brett is awesome, plain and simple. He knows everybody. He connects everybody. He is a mega networker. I've been connecting with him off and on for the past few months and really enjoyed working with him. So Brett, inspire us.
Well, thank you, Anne, for that introduction. Very generous of you. So I am the Communities Program Director at an organization called Eco America, and I've got a couple of resources to share with you today. If we could go to the next slide, please. The first resource is Student Climate Ambassador Training. This is also an ambassador training, different to the one that Anne is referring to, complementary. We've connected on our different ambassador trainings. So this first resource is primarily for upper level high school students and adults. The second resource is what we call our SCIT kit. And it's basically a toolkit for staging a climate-themed performance that models effective climate communication. This resource is appropriate for all ages. We've had some younger kids perform this as well. So firstly, the Climate Ambassador Training. This resource is something that we've been offering in conjunction with Prince George's County for a couple of years. We've had several successful rounds already, both with students and teachers. We're repeating it this April. And of course, I'm very happy to open this up more broadly now beyond just PG County. So next slide, please. So what does this entail and how can you get your classroom involved? First of all, the overarching objective of this training is to help students speak confidently and take action on climate change. I mentioned this is already, it's for upper level high school students looking at 10th, 11th, 12th grade, as well as adults. And the training covers climate basics, climate impacts and injustices, climate solutions, effective climate communication, and then making a difference as a climate ambassador after you finish the training. So the content is presented through 5 recorded online modules from myself and a couple of colleagues, as well as somebody from the District Heights Sustainability Committee, who is one of our climate ambassadors, and also 4 really incredible students from PG County. Next slide, please. So there's a ton of text on the screen here. These are the intended learning outcomes. I'm happy to follow up after so you can review these in more detail. But just as a quick overview, the ILOs include understanding climate justice, being aware of climate solutions, communicating effectively on climate change, and also gaining confidence to take climate action. Next slide, please. So this is how it works, basically. I'm going to share a link in the chat, drop that in right now. And that link, if you click on that, you sign up there, put your information in there, you will receive a package of materials sometime in late March that you can use to support your classroom's participation. Right now, this is planned for 4 classroom activities and 4 homework assignments along with that. The homework assignments entail viewing those recorded video modules. So this can be done over the course of a couple of weeks. In PG County, they're on an A-day, B-day schedule. I don't know how widely that is used across Maryland, but 4 classroom meetings spans about 2 weeks of time. You can adjust it to your particular schedule. So the package that you receive is going to have daily facilitation guides to help keep your students on track. And each day for the period that you're running the training, you'll draw on that facilitation guide. You'll spend about 10 to 15 minutes of class time to check on students' progress, reinforce the learning from the modules, and then assign the next night's homework. It's also worth noting that there is an independent track where the students can engage directly, even if none of their classrooms is participating in it. This is where librarians, counselors, other school staff can be particularly supportive. My mom is a retired librarian, so I always have to make sure that I find ways to include the non-classroom teaching staff as well. Okay, so next slide. After the training's over, the students are invited to join an online community. This is a community of ambassadors across the entire country, and it's a really excellent place for them to get involved, to stay connected, and also to get support for the climate actions that they want to organize in their local communities. As well as this is also a really valuable space for students to network with professionals who are also climate ambassadors. So our programming, Eco America's programming, isn't just for schools and teachers. We engage also through our Climate for Health program with health professionals. So there's doctors, nurses, public health officials, there's community leaders, there's faith leaders, there's theater professionals, city planners. We even actually have a couple of elected officials, former elected officials who've become ambassadors. So this is a really excellent network for young people to get plugged into who are really enthusiastic about climate change, to get support for the activities that they want to do, and also, learn about the different careers and the way that they can be a climate professional. So really encourage you, that link that I dropped in the chat, click on that, sign up. You'll be sure to get all the information to get your class involved. Okay, if we go to the next slide, I will talk about the second resource. So like I said, this is our Skit Kit. And what it is it's a tool to help groups model effective climate communication through a theatrical performance. Next slide. So in the Skit Kit, it's got everything that you need to organize your group, produce the event, and actually stage the performance. So to give you a bit of a synopsis, the skit takes place around a dinner table. An extended family sits down to dinner. The topic of climate change comes up and it explodes into an argument. Lots of us can probably relate to that, maybe from, Thanksgiving. At that point in the play, the skit's paused to kind of reflect on what went wrong and to, engage the audience in a conversation, and then to present some kind of ideas about how to do it right. All of this is evidence-based, and it's, being presented to the audience with kind of guidance. Then the play rewinds, the dinner table gets reset, and the whole scene starts over again. But this time it's done with the communication guidance applied, and the conversation goes much more smoothly. So, what this performance does is it models effective climate communication for the audience. But it also simultaneously teaches through participation and role play among the performers. So, you can produce this in a really elaborate way and you can stage it for an audience, but you can also just use it as a teaching tool for the students to kind of act out and learn by actually applying that communication guidance that's contained within it. And I really like this. We've developed this because, we have our climate ambassador training that kind of presents it in a traditional format of, the kind of classroom style format. And lots of people struggle to learn that way. This is a more interactive way of kind of learning that same communication guidance. Okay, next slide. So just some details about it. The running time of the skit is about 10 to 12 minutes. So it's a really short play. It can be produced quite quickly, depending on how elaborate you want to make it. We've had a group of kids produce it in under 2 hours of preparation. And we've also had multi-week productions, the staged performance for like a citywide event. Additionally, the script is customizable and customization is really encouraged. This thing is most successful when the audience can and the performers can see themselves within it. So, you can change the character names, you can change the setting, you can depict different family structures, you can switch up the context and traditions to reflect the cultural practices and the lived experiences of your audience. You can produce it with a really simple set, just a table and chairs where the characters mime the objects around the table, or you can do something really elaborate around a formal stage. Again, what this tool is, or what it does is it depicts a familiar scene of people disagreeing on climate issues. It encourages reflection on how things went wrong. It models more effective ways of having those conversations, and then it hopefully leaves participants with stronger skills in actually talking about climate change. So I am going to grab another link quickly, and I'm going to drop it in the chat. And that will take you to the toolkit itself. Of course, all of this stuff is completely free. There's just one thing that I ask if you do make use of this second toolkit is please, please, please report back to me. Let me know how it goes. I want to be able to make the case internally to my organization that I should be allowed to create more of these resources. So I need the evidence to show that people are actually using this. So I'm going to go ahead and put my email in the chat. And if you do use this, please reach out and let me know. And I'm happy to support you with that as well. So I'm dropping my email in. Hopefully I spell it right. Brett@ecoamerica.org. It's Brett with 2 T's. And yeah, I hope to see you take up some of these resources. Okay, I am going to turn it over to, I think it's Chesapeake Bay Trust. There we go. Emily, over to you.
Hi, all. Thank you so much. Before I get started, I want just a small warning. I have 2 small children who are running around and hopefully won't interrupt me, but we'll see. So thank you so much for having me. I'm Emily Stransky with the Chesapeake Bay Trust, and I am here to talk about the Chesapeake Conservation and Climate Corps program. I manage the Trust's workforce development and environmental literacy work, and under that is the Corps program. We can go to the next slide. So a little bit about the Chesapeake Bay Trust. If you're not familiar, we are a nonprofit grant-making organization, and we were actually started by the state of Maryland in 1985. So we're a quasi-state government agency, also nonprofit's a bit interesting. But if you are familiar with the Chesapeake Bay license plate, the funds from the license plate come to the trust, and we are able to utilize those funds for different grant programs, special initiatives, and partnerships. And our work typically focuses on 4 different buckets, which is K through 12 environmental education, on-the-ground watershed restoration, community engagement, and then the science around those 3 different realms. And one of the special initiatives that is part of our portfolio is the Chesapeake Conservation and Climate Corps program. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that. This will be especially interesting for any educators who are working with high schoolers because it's a program for young adults. So I'll share a little bit more about that in just a moment. But in general, the trust, like I said, a lot of our funding comes through the license plate. So if you don't have one, definitely think about that. We also have a lot of different partnerships with federal, state, and county, city jurisdictions, as well as a Chesapeake Bay Endangered Species Fund tax checkoff. So as you're doing your taxes this tax season, something to think about. You'll see a line in there about donating to the Endangered Species Fund, and that is actually the work that we do. You can go to the next slide. Great. So the Chesapeake Conservation and Climate Corps program. So the program is a green jobs workforce development program, and it provides a stipend for Corps members to participate in a year of service from August to August every year at nonprofits and government agencies, which are what we call host organizations. And those host organizations have environmentally focused topics and projects that they want to focus on, but aren't necessarily environmental organizations at their general mission. So it might be a community organization who wants to tackle some kind of environmental portfolio, or a county agency, city agency, a school system, a school. And then we also engage federal agencies, state agencies, and a whole range of other nonprofits and local government agencies. And the program started in 2010, also through legislation from the state of Maryland. We were able to expand 2 other times after that, thanks to the Climate Solution Now Act in 2022. We expanded pretty substantially. And then through a partnership with the state of Maryland's Department of Service and Civic Innovation. So if you're familiar or have heard of the Department of Service and Civic Innovation's service year option and Maryland Corps that they started under Governor Moore a few years ago, we're partnering with them, and that's allowed us to expand the program as well. So we're super thankful for that. And we're entering our 17th year. And this 17th year will take place from August 18th, 2026 to August 17th, 2027. And we anticipate placing 80 Corps members at those host organizations that I was talking about to support environmental projects across the state. You go to the next slide. So who are the Corps members? Corps members, there aren't too many criteria around who is a Corps member. We have kind of 3 criteria. One is that they're 18 to 25 at the start of the program. So if you're working with high schoolers who are about to graduate and they're not really sure what they want to do next, this program is a really great opportunity to kind of get their foot in the door and figure out what they might want to do in the future. Yeah, Alex, what they want to do in the future. And we have folks who have just graduated high school, who have just graduated college, who are kind of in between and aren't sure what they want to do next, might be looking to go to graduate school and figure that out. But they have to be 18 to 25 at the start of the program, so that in that August date. They have to be able to work in the United States. So whether that's they're a citizen or lawful permanent resident or have documentation with permission to serve for the year of the program. And then they have to be available to serve full time. So that's approximately 40 hours a week for the entire 12-month term of service. So that is that means that if they're also participating in school full time, it would be difficult to participate in the program. So we're looking for folks who aren't currently in school full time, who don't have other full time commitments. So those are just the requirement. Yes, Jasmine, as well as you guys in the chat. Those are the requirements for Corps members. There's no specific educational background, job experience, etc. And what do they receive if they participate in the program? So they receive an annual stipend. This coming year will be $33,280. That's equivalent of $16 an hour. It is a stipend. It's considered a stipend to participate in the program. They receive health insurance if they need it, if they don't already have it covered by a guardian or parent. A completion award at the end of their service term for $6,000 if they're a Maryland resident, and that is in partnership with Department of Service and Civic Innovation. And then really the point of the program is that real world experience. They're serving for a year at a host site, from a federal agency, state agency, county agency to a local nonprofit. So they get that real world experience serving in, a job. They also receive mentorship from their host organization on what they might want to do next. The trust puts on about 15 different professional development trainings, and that might look like environmental literacy. It might look like climate change, diversity, equity, inclusion, environmental justice. We have a professional development series focused on creating a more robust resume and cover letter, learning soft skills like giving and receiving feedback and managing up. And then we have a financial literacy series as well. Training series. There's also a lot of opportunities to network with your fellow core members. Like I said, we're anticipating placing 80 members next year. So it's a lot of different folks that they're able to talk to and really build their network, their professional network out. And many other things. We have a lot of fun in this program, and it's really a great opportunity. And I will mention that I am an alumni of the core program from year 3. So we're at year 17. It's fun to be managing the program now, but I got a lot out of it even that early in the program. And I think I just have one more slide, so I think I'm on time here. If you want to go to the next slide. So right now, this is a great opportunity, again, if you know folks who are about to be graduating high school or in that 18 to 25-year-old range that they're not sure what they want to do next. The member application deadline for this coming year actually closes on Friday. So they still have a few more days. They could get an application in. I will drop a link in the chat to the website in general. But on this slide, you'll see that there's an apply page for members. The application package looks like submitting a few essay responses to some questions, uploading an optional resume and optional letters of support or letters of recommendation. And on the website for the members, let me grab that link. There is a list of who the potential host sites are. There's a virtual information session recording that we did and slide deck. So there's a lot of different information they can access. And then the last thing I'll mention is that if you're thinking that it would be cool to have a core member yourself, the host site application for this coming year has already closed. We already know who the potential hosts are. But for the next year, 2027, 2028, we'll be opening up the host application in September of this year. It'll close in December. If you are a nonprofit, like a community organization, a watershed organization, you work for the school system, any of those count, or a government agency, and you think you might want to host a core member, check that out in the fall. The link there is for the host, but you can also go to that website and check out the current application package that we put out to get an idea of what the requirements are. But in general, just a really brief rundown is the trust pays the stipend for the core member. We put on the trainings. The host site is expected to provide the core members with the tools to do their work. So that might look like a desk or a computer, and then provide travel reimbursement. But otherwise, the core program is paying that stipend and the training and things like that, and the health insurance. And that is all I have. I'm right on time. So if you have any questions, my email address was at the beginning, but you can also email core@cbtrust.org and we'll get your email. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Emily. So Jared, we are right on time. I don't know if this won't take 10 minutes. I can offer maybe a
Please.
1 minute. Okay. So again, I'm Elizabeth Spike. I'm with Clean Air Partners, and our sole mission is to educate the public about air pollution and what we can do to protect our air quality. Everything we do is free. I work with teachers and students. In fact, there are some teachers that I work with on tonight's meeting, so thank you for being here. I'm going to show you real quick 2 very simple, quick nature icebreakers you can do in the classroom. On the left, we have some cubes, and at the beginning of the year, I invite my students to write something on each side of the cube. And on this side, you are looking at which landscape best represents you. And so you can see their choices. You can change the choices, the options, and then they pick a landscape, they write it on the cube, and I usually ask them to explain why. Why did they pick that landscape? How do they see themselves as? the forest or the river. And one of my favorite responses is, I'm like the river, I just go with the flow. So I love it. They're very creative. And then on the right-hand side is a have you ever. I borrowed this and modified this. This is just a series of pictures with little prompts like, have you ever smelled a flower? Have you ever seen a predator? Have you ever gone paddling? And so on and so forth. So these are just simple, fast ways to bring nature to the students and have them think about their relationship to nature. And, maybe that's one of their first steps, or it cements their identity as being part of nature, loving nature. And so these might be simple tools that you could implement in your classroom. So thank you for letting me share. And now we're going to open it up to questions and answers. So I guess you're welcome to come off of mute and ask a question, and I will look at the chat and see, if you want to put questions there, I'll pull them out of the chat and share. So looking at the chat, we see a lot of love for Eco America and the CCC opportunity. Do we have a question, maybe?
Will all of the resources that were talked about tonight from links and or will the slides themselves be accessible post this meeting?
Yes. So the answer to both those questions is yes. So we'll compile all the links that were shared in today's meeting in the chat today. And when we send out an email today, in the next couple of days, that includes the link to the recording, which is going to be posted on our YouTube channel. We'll also include the resources from our really excellent speakers today. And then you can also find a number of resources, including all of the slides for this presentation on the Maryland Climate Teaching website, which I'll put in the chat shortly.
Fantastic. Thank you guys so much. This has been incredible.
Hello, I have a question for Ms. Spike. How can we contact you? How can we make contact? How can we connect to Clean Air? I believe that's the organization you're with.
Yes. I'll go ahead and put my email in the chat.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So I see a question. I'm not sure if it was addressed. I think by Tressa, who has a nonprofit nature-based school in the forest all year round. That's interesting. Any ideas on what we can do as a project? So I would imagine, and I'm not sure how long you were on the webinar, but I imagine you all are probably already doing some activities. And again, we want to try to capture, probably primarily during the month of April, but if whatever you're doing and whatever activities you're doing as part of this school, I think that will probably qualify as a teaching event. So again, most of you are already doing the work. And then of course, if you have a resource page, and Jared, on that page, does it show some of the projects from past years? I think we have some of those too, right?
I think that's a resource that would be really wonderful for us to have, but we don't have built out yet.
Okay. But if you have any specific questions, Tressa, reach out to either one of Tressa, if I'm saying that right.
Yeah.
Reach out to any one of us, and we can try to give you some other ideas.
Yes, thank you. I know probably most of the schools as well are already doing a lot of the things. I was just trying to think of something outside of what we're already normally doing, since we are in the forest with no building. So, and we do a lot of those activities, but I was just trying to think outside the box if there was any ideas that somebody might have.
Okay. Well, what about anybody who's part of the webinar? Any ideas you all have?
Hey, Tressa. Hi, I'm Ann.
Hi.
used to do this really cool activity, and I've done it with seventh graders and sixth graders, and you probably do it with your older kids. And it's kind of like measuring carbon sequestration, but instead you are measuring the breaths per day of a tree. And it's really cool and it's so easy. So I have to dig up that data chart. So if you wanted to reach out to me, I can find it tomorrow morning and send it to you. And all you need is a measuring tape. And it just brings like the conversation about like, well, are trees producing as much oxygen as we need and it like go into the carbon cycle? So you could connect that to clean air. So I really, it's the kids were like, oh my gosh, it was like an aha moment for them. So I'm gonna just pop in my email here for you.
Thank you. That would be wonderful. And I will. I'll reach out to you about that. They would love that. We have plenty of trees. A lot of trees to mark. So
Tressa, have you done the diameter and the height and looked at their ecological benefit? Have you ever done that?
no,
Okay,
not yet.
oh, that's really great. Like that was a big aha for my students last year. And it's fun. Like, they're measuring the diameter of the tree and the height of the tree, and you can plug all that in and know what are all the benefits of the tree. So like it was pretty amazing for the kids to see that. They're like, oh my goodness, this is why we need to plant more trees and we can't cut down trees and this and that. So I do believe that is one of the resources that the Maryland Climate they have in their resource bank. So
Okay.
yeah. But I can also make sure you get that.
I've got an idea for Tressa.
Yes.
She can write a book or have the kids write a book and have it bound out of all the activities that they do all year.
That's a great idea. That really is because we're located on a senior, the land is on a senior residency. So we do work with the elderly. There are elders. So there's so much that can be done. I love that idea though. That's wonderful. I'm going to write that down.
Yeah.
Tressa, another one.
Send me a copy of it.
Sorry.
I'm sorry. I said, and send me a copy of it when you're done.
Absolutely.
Tressa, another activity you could definitely consider, I've done with mixed grades, is bringing awareness to sound pollution with like a radar, like a printed out radar where I've had kids like sit in silence and like mark down like where they're the center of like a sonar radar and marking where sounds are coming from, what kind of sounds, and like how you can mark like how loud they are. And of course, older students can create a more detailed radar and sonar, and younger kids can like color half of it in saying that in their right ear they heard this and that. But that's one thing that I've done to bring awareness to sound pollution in different areas.
Thank you. You know what's so funny is one of our teachers, I was observing the teacher today, and that was one of the activities, and it was so cool to see because they do sit spots out in, it's kind of like forest bathing, but a little bit different. But that they were so excited about that. I mean,
That's awesome.
So was coughing behind me. That was really far away. Or, yeah, that is awesome.
Awesome. I'm so glad to hear that like other people are doing that.
Well, it's 7:01 and excuse me. And I want to thank everyone for attending this evening's webinar, our first ever. And if you are ready to register, the QR code is on the screen. Then also the links were dropped in the chat. So please take advantage of this opportunity and register for the Maryland Climate Teach-In. Reach out to any of us. We're here to support and help you be help your climate teach-in be a success. And so I also see Jared has put, oh no, that's the registration form. Okay, that's the link. Is that correct, Jared? That Survey Monkey?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. So, you have two different ways to register. And this is being recorded, and we're going to post this recording to MDE's YouTube channel. So, Jared, do you want to talk a little bit about that, how they'll access it or share it, or if folks
Yeah,
weren't able to make it
absolutely.
tonight? Okay.
Yep. So like Elizabeth said, this session is going to be recorded, and we're going to post that recording on the Maryland Commission on Climate Change's YouTube channel. And a link to that is going to be distributed along with a summary of all the great resources that we've seen today out to everybody on our email list. And that'll include the link to the YouTube channel and also all the other links. So should be a great summation of everything we've seen.
Okay. Thanks, Jared. And thank you to all of our presenters. We learned an awful lot tonight. There are a lot of options for our first timers and our returning teachers. So if you haven't registered, register, and we look forward to seeing what you do in your classroom this year. Thank you and have a good night.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.